Hi, I'm Steve Lentini, and I'm the host for the podcast Different Thinking for Different Times. This is season 6, episode 5. So I have a new project called 24hourgoodnews.com, and I'm asking people to submit good news when they catch people in the act of doing good, or if they have an article about someone they knew. Because in my opinion, many others may have the same opinion. There's too many places where all we're doing is looking for bad news, and we're looking for the opinion of others that reinforces our own, what I call the acorn brain, the small-minded thinker, whether it's politics or religion or the neighbors or our boss or the company or our spouse. Our brain is actively working in what I call the complaint mode, the grievance mode. And that actually keeps us from our good. It's like a circuit breaker that is now on overload and soon will short circuit. It'll shut down your own good if you're living in complaint and grievances and then watching it on TV and listening to it in the news, searching for people that agree with you or getting angry at people that disagree with you. This episode is also about where is God? Where is God? Now, 22 years ago plus, November 18th, 2002, I flatlined and I got to look at where God is. And I had been searching for God. I was going to be a priest when I was a teenager. And that's a longer story, but I met a young lady on the high school bus and decided, I don't think I can be a Catholic priest. Not according to their definition. So I began a search for what is it that I will do. I even remember asking in my prayers, all right, if I'm not going to be a priest, then how will I serve you? And for me, it was God. And on November 18th, flash forward 50 years, I was 50, the month before. 2002, I flatlined. And if you've listened to previous podcasts, you know the whole story. November 13th, I was actually doing a sales training. I owned the license for a national sales training program at the time. I was in my 5th year. And one second I was fine. I was conducting the training, and the next second I needed an ambulance on November 13th. And I can tell you, I had been studying the power of gratitude, and immediately I was grateful, even waiting for the ambulance. Little did I know what I was sensing as I think back on it today was the divine presence, the presence of something otherworldly, much larger than my own thinker, that little voice in my head. And from what I understand, for most of us. So what I learned on November 18th was that God is everywhere. There's no place that the infinite, the superior reasoning power, the God, the goddess, the Abraham, the Brahma, the Buddha, the Christ, the Muhammad consciousness, the Krishna, whatever you call it. Because in my experience, it had no name. One second, I was in intensive care with 2 friends at the end of my bed. I'd been in and out of consciousness that day and many of the days previous, since the 13th of November. And the next second, I was one with everything and nothing. One with the infinite. Like a wave in the ocean. I was part of the ocean, part of the infinite. And I knew I was one with it. It was just a knowing, because this little thinker, by the way, that little voice that's constantly talking to me, judging things, complaining about things in my head, wanting me to have a grievance, complaining about traffic or whatever it is in the moment, that voice didn't go with me. So where was God? Everywhere. There was no past or future, only the now. That was the other thing, which I didn't realize until I was back in my body sometime later. So there was only the now. It was like a scene and a scene and a scene, immense light, immense mercy, grace, love, presence, except not as we define it in our mind. It was what Einstein talked about, the superior reasoning power that created this unimaginable universe forms my idea of God, Einstein used to say. And later I learned that Baruch Spinoza was another person that Einstein mentioned when people asked him, "What's your idea of God?" And Einstein would often also say, "Go read The God of Spinoza," which Baruch wrote that in the 1600s. And what he talked about is amazing. It will amaze you if you go read it. Baruch Spinoza. Later, he changed his name to Benedict Spinoza because he was shunned by his community after writing that. So what I can tell you is in the 1600s, when he wrote that, what he was talking about was God is everywhere. And today I can say in the now, in my experience, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I want you to experience it for yourself, just in the moment. Be thinking about what you're grateful for, how your life has come together with this invisible guidance, this loving force. Maybe you'll call it coincidences or synchronicities. Deepak Chopra says that synchronicities can lead to our synchrodestiny. What synchronicities remind me of is that there is an invisible guiding force that I call God. Some call it the quantum field. Joe Dispenza likes to say that, where all the atoms are until they manifest. And yet here we are, a manifestation of all the atomic particles in physical form. So we too are part of that quantum field, but for me, it's God. There is no need to go searching for God if you can embrace the moment, embrace life as it is. To start the thinking of life is happening for me, not to you. Life is not happening to me. It's happening for me. That's a choice that people who are happier make, because they don't judge any moment, either good or bad, happy or sad. Now we're getting to a song. It just is. And so to embrace life and everything that shows up, especially the moments we find challenging or difficult, or the people that we find most difficult, they're actually life itself, that superior reasoning power, God moving you toward what is yours to do, to your purpose in life. And I know for me, I was resisting it. I thought that national sales training license was mine to do for a few years. And then I realized it wasn't. And so for 3 years, I was in a complaint about it's never going to be my own work. And this little brain was telling me, you'll never have your own work. Who will listen to you? You can't write a book. Who will buy them? And after that day, November 18th, and like I said, it started on the 13th because I was grateful and never thought about the possibility of dying. I was just in the moment. I had surrendered to the moment. And that's what brought about great gifts. Unimaginable. In fact, total synchronicitous events that statistically you could not say they would have occurred. 5 job offers while I was lying in the hospital. $24,000 came in the mail when people heard. And many other things that were just amazing and miraculous. And that is what we live in. We live in something amazing, and it's this brain that separates us from that and then from God. So I'm in intensive care with 2 friends at the end of my bed. The next second, I'm one with everything and nothing. As I described, immense light, mercy, grace, love. And again, it's not, those words do not do it justice. And only the now, which I had to figure out later because I could not connect the events together. So it was like a scene. So there I am, one with everything and nothing in the light. The next scene was my life review, and only the good I had done flashed before me. Everyone I had helped, given money to, helped move, family and friends, of course, that had passed on, and even people I had helped on the street, bought a sandwich for, or given money to, and remarkably, even people I smiled at. I was in the habit then, thanks to Deepak Chopra, of silently wishing people when I met their eyes, when made eye contact, I would say, I give you my blessings as a gift. Or I wish you joy, happiness, and success. Deepak says to do that and wish people namaste, right? Peace, that's heaven, namaste. So that's what happened. And then the next scene was a question. I was asked, stay or go? And my consciousness surrendered like no other time. And like I say, I'm embarrassed to say I was 50. My consciousness surrendered with thy will be done, which I learned later in the Vedic tradition is the most powerful prayer you can say. Now, I had not read that before that day, and somehow my consciousness surrendered with thy will be done. It didn't matter if I stayed there or went back to intensive care, and I was right back in intensive care. And I couldn't speak only because I was blown away by what had just occurred. And it took me some time to finally say, the 2 friends were back at the end of my bed. I said, something happened. And they said, oh yeah, you flatlined. The nurses and doctors came running in. Your alarms were going off. And they said, out, this is it, call his family. Now, back in my body, those thoughts come back. That little brain, that acorn brain that's now my work, they come back. And because they weren't there, I realized there is a way for us to manage that voice. And that is to recognize everything is God. Not just the good times. Without chaos and conflict, we would not know we were alive. Without the contrasts of all the different people and creatures and weather and everything else we go through in life, while life may not be easy, it can be easier if we just decide this is all a miracle. And that no matter what each moment brings, to be with it. Thich Nhat Hanh talks about that. If it's time to wash the dishes, be there fully. Full mindfulness in every moment. Now, it's easier said than done. It takes a practice, what I call going to the neuro gym. And in my work and with my coaching clients and and talks and speeches I give when I'm invited to speak, I talk about that. Where is God? Right here, right now, with each of us. And this world, of course, we create the conflict and the chaos because we live in so much of grievances. We believe our brain, we believe this little thinker, and we can learn to run that mind. Now, it doesn't go away. You never reach perfection in that mind. But as you learn to discipline it, you remind yourself in every moment to come back to what's true now. And that's where God was for me. I was one with everything and nothing, and there was only the now. In fact, those scenes that I just described to you, I couldn't put them together until I was back in my body. Then again, there was a past and a future. So during the day, take some gratitude breaks or take some breathing breaks. Just breathe and remind yourself, what is the gift in this? I'm embracing life as it is. And give up living from the outside in. Nothing from the outside will validate you as a person. Let's suppose you want to be famous. When you get there, you'll be, oh, okay, I'm famous. Now what? You'll find another complaint. You'll want to be more famous, or you'll want to be hide out because people are hounding you because you're famous. Just think of all the famous people who are terribly unhappy or who have committed suicide, have decided to end their lives. They couldn't live with it because they're living from the outside in. To live from the inside out, in the moment, not judging anything as good or bad, just being with it. Christ said everything works together for good in Romans chapter 8, verse 28. For those who believe us in the Father. Muhammad said what reaches you was never meant to miss you, and what misses you was never meant to reach you. That talks about not lamenting something that hasn't shown up, which would lead you to a grievance and a complaint because you want to be something else. And that what reaches you was never meant to miss you. That's to be with anything that shows up because it's all God. God is in the moment. And all of the coaching I do, and I coach some CEOs, top producers, leaders, people who are in regular day jobs, sales roles. I'm coaching them first and foremost to have a belief in something much higher, a higher power. It doesn't matter what they call it. I'm fine. As long as one has faith that we live in a miracle, and then to look at life as happening for us, not to us, and to get off the complaints. I wrote the book, No BS Coaching. I usually have one here. It's in my briefcase, but I wrote the book, No BS Coaching. Wake up from the BS you tell yourself. When we're stuck in complaints and BS, it's a BS story. When you're complaining about your past, your parents, what they did to you, the job, the boss, the spouse, the traffic, it's all a BS story because you could just be with it and accept it in the moment. It reached you after all. And then I wrote How to Train Your Mind, written by a dragon, where I talk about managing your mind. You don't have to let that brain run you. George Ivanovich Gurdjieff called it the machine, and he would ask his students and his clients, will you let that machine run you, or will you run it? In the 1800s, Rainer Maria Rilke wrote that he called that voice the little hooligan and would ask those around him, will you let that little hooligan run you, or will you run it? It's a choice. And humans love to be in the complaint. And sadly, most of our leaders, that's all they do. They're all complaining, pointing fingers, not taking accountability, not working for the greater good by having a dialogue and compromising, saying, what would help everyone? Let's have a dialogue. Let's compromise. And the sad thing is they behave that way. They model a poor behavior. In fact, it's not against the law to lie in Congress, whether Senate or Congress. We should make that a law. Against the law to lie. Because what happens is they play this political game, this partisan game, and then we don't know where the truth is because they prefer just to enrage people in the complaint and the grievance. It's human to get enrolled in that. It's otherworldly to rise above it. And you can do it. You have to prove that to yourself. I work on it every day. I go to the neuro gym. I wake up, as I recommend in my How to Train Your Mind book, written by a dragon, because I was born in the year of the dragon. This is a fantastic day, is the first thing I say. And I looking forward to what life brings me today. And I intend for synchronicities to occur to remind me of this miracle that we live in, that there is an invisible power guiding me. Because statistically, when synchronicities occur, they're impossible. They're statistically impossible. Surviving what I survived in 5 days. 1 was acute necrotizing pancreatitis, and 2, on the 5th day, was an anterior myocardial infarction. Statistically, go look them up. 22 years ago. Acute necrotizing pancreatitis, at that time, 30,000 people a year got it and 200 survived. Acute myocardial infarction is probably similar. Today it's better, no doubt, as we improve our health care. But again, 2 major illnesses in 5 days, and I have no symptoms. None. Everything works perfectly. And I don't know when I'll get called again. And what I've learned is to just love every moment and work on that brain, reminding myself, as Joe Dispenza calls it, reprogramming my mind, learning to run my mind. That's a master of circumstance. And sadly, the victim of circumstance believes life is happening to them, and they believe they're thinking. You can go to any watering hole or any probably company cafeteria and listen to people complaining. You want to hear what happened to me? No, tell me. Go ahead. Sure, tell me. Oh, you poor thing. Now wait till you hear what happened to me. Can you imagine everyone sitting around saying, you want to hear how life is working for me today? Because the brain is not enrolled in that unless you train it. Now it's up to you. It's up to you. I have a new book called In Plain Sight. Learn to see what most people miss and embrace life as it is. All my books are available on Amazon, written by Steve Lentini, Lentini, Steve Lentini. If you want to email me, steve@stevelentini.com, feel free, steve@stevelentini.com. You could be a guest on this show. You could come and challenge me in the podcast. I've had a lot of wonderful guests over the last year, and more are scheduled for this year. And I look forward to having the discussions about how we can expand our little acorn brains, our small-minded thinkers, to model that superior reasoning power that created this unimaginable universe, no matter what you call it. Having faith in something bigger than you is excellent. It's a great thing to have, and a reminder to be in the moment, using breathing and gratitude. Take a break and look around. You might see my doggie sleeping here. Let me show you what all I have to be grateful for. There's one of my dogs. I have 3. There's some of the books I've written and other books that I'm reading. because I'm still studying and learning. I don't know it all. I've got a lot of books on my desk to read or that I'm reading. And I don't suggest to anyone that I found the way to live. My journey is my business. Your journey is none of my business. And that's how all of us need to learn to live. You have to decide that. Stay out of other people's business and stop judging other people's journeys. That's their journey. It's a gift. It's to get them to their purpose in life. I know some have come to teach me forgiveness, and I know I've taught many forgiveness. Others have taught me about my own anger or where I've not met the mark. And instead of accusing them of that, I'm looking at myself, knowing that everyone that shows up is from God. It's all God. There's no place that God is absent in the universe or in the moment. You have to prove that to yourself. Then you own it. Begin to live from the inside out. Take gratitude breaks. Surrender to what is. I was fighting life before November 13th because I wanted it to be different than what it was. I wanted my own work. I wanted to write books. That national franchise wouldn't let me do my own work. It was their programs, of course. That would be like me owning a McDonald's, and I decided one day I'm going to have a Steve's burger and put it on the menu, test it. It was within their right, and I had agreed to it when I paid the license fee and signed all the documents. And then when I let that license go, I sold the clients to other licensees and honored the non-compete for 2 years. I did start a class right away called Wake Up, Jump Into Your Life. That we can change our lives when we become masters of circumstance. And that's what I started. And that led to my purpose and my work today, which is this brain is there for us to manage and run. That's why it's talking incessantly all day long at you and judging everything and wanting you to be angry or sad or depressed or anxious or frustrated or carrying grievances around about how things are or complaining about others. That's your small-minded thinker running you. The good news is you can run it. You can. That's my work. If you'd like a free coaching, again, email me, steve@stevelentini.com. I offer that in the books I write on Amazon. Free coaching. Anybody that watches these podcasts or listens to them all the way to the end, they get the gift of a free coaching. And I can help you find God in the moment, and I can help you with what your purpose is. But you're going to make all the decisions. I don't suggest anything. I never should on you. I won't. But with a shift in thinking and learning to manage your mind and recognizing that God is never absent, you'll find this miracle and live with joy and happiness, even in the midst of challenges and darkness, because it was in my darkest time that I found my purpose and my joy. People ask me, what's the most amazing thing you can say about your life right now? Say, well, November 13th, waiting for the ambulance. That began the unfolding of the most amazing experience of my life, and it has not stopped. And I have other days that led me, before that occurred, to a glimpse of what was to come. Fascinating, all synchronicities that were statistically impossible. We live in a miracle, folks. Don't forget it. And God is never absent from you. There's no need to search. There's only surrender and gratitude. And in the moment, mindfulness, and you'll find the infinite. You'll find God. Again, don't take my word for it. Prove it to yourself. And if you'd like some help, email me, steve@ Steve Lentini, LENTINI.com. I'm glad to help. And thank you for joining me for this half hour.